जगत्तराधाकान्तनमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवाद पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you once again for joining today. And yesterday we discussed about Ishvara, and although we have covered many concepts in regards to Ishvara. Yes, definitely we haven't exhaustively covered everything around it. Today we'll be discussing upon karma. So we have already covered Ishvara, Jiva, Ishvara, and today we'll be discussing upon karma, and tomorrow we'll be discussing on Kala and Prakriti, and followed by discussion on the implementation of Bhagavad Gita in our personal life. How to practice the principles of Bhagavad Gita in one's life, what all things that we need to adopt in our lives. So this will be discussing upon tomorrow. Yesterday, in the course of a discussion, I just missed out the points. I thought of bringing it up today before we start a discussion with karma. Yesterday, we were discussing about the definition of God, and we also discussed about many gods and one God, all of this. But I missed to mention the concept of avatar, which I promised to. So I'll be discussing about avatar, and followed by a brief discussion on many people claiming themselves as avatar in today's age. So what to do with them? So this will be discussing. Yes, avatar actually comes from the word avataran. Avataran means descending. Descending. So avatar actually refers to that personality who descends from the spiritual world. Who descends from the spiritual world. Avatar itself means descending, and where from he is descending from the spiritual world. That means someone who is already existing in the spiritual world only can descend, right? For someone to descend, he should be there, first of all. So that's the reason we can say that the avatars that we are talking about, they are eternally existing. For example, when we talk about Lord Ram, it doesn't mean that Lord Ram simply appeared in Treta Yuga and he wasn't there in in Satya Yuga, a yuga before Treta Yuga. It is not that Lord It is not that Lord Ram was not present in Satyuga. And similarly, when we say that Lord Krishna appeared in Dwapar Yuga, it doesn't mean that Lord Krishna wasn't there in Treta and Satyugas. Rather, Lord Krishna is eternally existing, Lord Ram is eternally existing. But the only thing is that they are manifest. They manifest their pastimes at a particular point of time. That's it. It is not that they weren't existing before. They were existing, and they were performing pastimes as well. But those pastimes and at that time they were not visible to people in general. But when the Lord descends in the form of avatar, then he makes himself visible to the general people. This is the difference. Just like as we have discussed yesterday, the sun appears every day in the sky. Just because the sun has appeared early in the morning today, it doesn't mean that sun was not existing yesterday. It doesn't mean that sun was not existing yesterday. Sun is existing eternally, but the only thing is that for some point of time during the night, for some amount of time during the night, the sun was not visible to us, and later on he appeared early in the morning. And he once again disappears in the evening, and again he appears in the morning. Just as sun appears for some time and he disappears for the rest. So similarly, the Lord also appears for some time. He is visible for some time, and for the rest of the time he is not visible. Just because he is not visible, we cannot say that the Lord isn't there. Lord isn't there. The avatar doesn't exist. So it is. We can easily understand with the help of this example of sun. And next, uh, for for anyone to be regarded as an avatar, there are certain conditions which are supposed to be satisfied if somebody is to be considered as an avatar of the Supreme Lord. Nobody can simply claim themselves as an avatar without fulfilling these conditions. And what are those conditions in brief? There are certain conditions there are certain symptoms or conditions we can say which are gross in nature, and some which are a bit subtle in nature. The first condition is that somebody can only be recognized as an avatar only when there is a mention of such an appearance of avatar in the scriptures. There should be somewhere a written statement in the scriptures predicting the appearance of the avatar. Somebody cannot suddenly come up and say that I am an avatar. And secondly, so there should be a mention. So whatever avatars have appeared until now, all of them were mentioned well before in the scriptures. Just like even in the case of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared 500 years ago, who is considered or understood to be the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself. And this understanding or acceptance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Sri Krishna is not a sentimental belief. Rather, it is predicted well before in the scriptures in hundreds and hundreds of shlokas. Each and every detail of the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is predicted and documented in the scriptures beforehand. The scriptures, even if we go by the scientific understanding of the date of compilation of the scriptures, the scriptures are understood to be 5,000 years old, at least, as per the scientific understanding. But if you go by if you go by the descriptions in the scriptures, then the scriptures are not simply dated back just 5,000 years. Rather, they are eternally existing. They're eternally existing. But even if you go by the scientific understanding that they're coming just from they're just here for the past 5,000 years, then that means Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance was predicted 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago. I mean, such minute details are given, just like the place of his birth, where he is going to take birth, and I mean the names of his parents, and the purpose of his appearance, and what is he going to do in the course of his appearance, and what is his mission, and the time of his appearance, and the names that the name that he will the names that he will carry or he'll be named as. So these names are also given, and uh, and similarly, and what ashram is he going to accept? Brahmacharya, sannyasa, grahastha ashram. What ashram is he going to accept? This ashram is also mentioned, and and the exact place where he is going to appear is also mentioned. The time of appearance is also mentioned. So in this way, such great minute details are mentioned 5,000 years before the Lord and the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And similarly, when we talk about when we talk about the next avatar that is going to appear, that is Kalki. Kalki. Even regarding Kalki also, there are very great details mentioned in the scriptures, just like the place of his birth, Sambal Gaon. And you can, the Sambal Gaon, this is mentioned in our scriptures, and there is a village by this name even today in Uttar Pradesh. Maybe some of you must have heard of it. And it was also mentioned that he will be taking birth in a Brahmana family, and what activities is he going to do, and what is his mission, and uh, and the time of his appearance. When is he going to appear? He is going to appear towards the last phase of Kali Yuga. And what is the span of Kali Yuga? Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years long, of which we just passed 5,000 years, 5,250 years odd. This is what we just, I mean, we just passed in Kali Yuga. Then you can imagine the kind of atrocities and the kind of the situation that we are seeing today. If this is the case of Kali Yuga just 5,000 years after it has begun, then you can imagine the kind of the state of Kali Yuga after 4,27,000 years, when it goes towards its last phase, and it is unimaginable for a gentleman and woman to stay. It's it's going to get more and more difficult. Even today, the situation seems to be so worse. There's so many wars between the nations coming up, and so much of religious riots and this and that and whatnot. This itself gives us a feeling of hell. Then it is really difficult for us to imagine what it is going to be after 4 lakh years. The situations are going to get more worse and worse and worse. There are some predictions given in the scriptures about how is it going to be towards 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 the last phase of Kali Yuga. There are certain descriptions, but we do not have time to discuss on all of it. Just, I mean, it is said so. Ki, I mean, some predictions have already come true. Mm. They already come true, and some predictions slowly and gradually they will manifest. Mm. Just like it is predicted that the lifespan of the humans will slowly and gradually go down, and it will go down to such an extent that the average lifespan of a human will be just 20 years. Mm. 20 years. Within 20 years of span of time, everything will happen. All our studies will be completed, PhD will be also over, marriage, children, this, that, everything will be over within 20 years. In 20 years. And this is, I mean, this is happening literally. Maybe maybe 5 to 10 decades ago, people used to live, there used to be many people who used to live for more than 100 years. But today, it is really, really rare to see any person crossing 100. The span has gone down. People used to be healthy more when there were when there were not many hospitals. When there were not many hospitals, my spiritual master was once sharing that he was from a village in Maharashtra, and um, weekly once a doctor used to visit his village. Weekly once, for a couple of hours, a doctor used to visit the village, and that was the only medical assistance available. In spite of that, the doctor used to come, sit in his cabin for a couple of hours, and literally he was saying that the doctor, uh, most of the times, he returns without having to see any patient. Most of the times, he would return without having to see any patient. Then you can imagine. Once in a week, for a couple of hours, still no patient. And now, you can see, I mean, so many multi-speciality hospitals coming up with 100 beds and 1,000 beds and this and that, and all the hospitals are full. All the hospitals are full. So you can imagine the kind of health conditions that we are in today. And anyways, so and similarly, it is also said, there'll be such a scarcity of food and water in the society, to such an extent that a mother wouldn't even hesitate to kill her own child and eat. And this is anyway seen in the animal society, like in snakes or tigers in other societies. But this is what is going to happen with the humans as well. Just the time will speak for itself. And it is also said that in Kali Yuga, people, mm, although they are not beautiful, although they are not beautiful, mm, the only beauty that will be left with is by simply crafting their hair. They'll be pulling their hair this way and that way and try to somehow project their beauty. And this is what is left with them. I mean, they do not have that real beauty. And that's why, I mean, definitely we get to see so many hairstyles coming up now and then. So in that way, there are many such predictions in the, and even it is a marriage system is also said that, regarding marriage system also, it is said that it is only for sex life that people get married. There'll be no other purpose or motive behind. So in this way, there are many predictions which are slowly and gradually coming true. And this is the state of Kali Yuga. And take anyways. So Kalki, I mean, regarding the appearance of Kalki also, there are many predictions made. And this is one thing, that is, an avatar should be mentioned. There should be a mention of the about the appearance of the avatar in the scriptures. Second, second, i- he should be accepted as an avatar of the Supreme by great saintly people, not the foolish ones, but the great saintly people who are knowledgeable of Shastras, who are pure at heart, and who themselves are practicing the scriptures in their daily life, and they are devoted to the practice of spirituality. So such saintly people, and actually, scriptures never leave anything in a vague state or a confused state. Just like, for example, when we talk about saintly person, there's a particular definition of a saint. Mm. There's a particular definition of a saint only when a person who is seen to possess five qualities, he is considered to be a saint. It doesn't matter whether he is a male, he is a female, he is a grihastha, he is a sannyasi, whosoever it is, he can be considered as a saint as long as he possesses these five qualities. Usually people consider a saintly person to be one in saffron robes. One in saffron robes, or one who is a sannyasi, but this is not the understanding of scriptures. Rather, scriptures are much, much broader than we actually understand. Scriptures say, I mean, why can't a female be a saint? Why can't a grahastha be a saint? And so in that way, anybody can be a saint as long as they possess these five qualities that is said. Titikshava karunika sukuradam sarvade dehinam ajata shatravashanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. A saint is a person who is decorated with five qualities. Titikshava is tolerant. He is extremely tolerant. Karunika, very merciful. Suhrudam Sarvadehina, he is the benefactor or the well-wisher of all living entities, not just humans and his family. Rather, he is the well-wisher of all living entities. Ajata Shatravaha, he never considers anybody as his enemy. Somebody may consider him as his enemy, but he doesn't consider anybody as his enemy. And finally, Shantaha. He practices silence. Silence in the sense, he uses his, he utilizes his tongue only for the glorification of the Supreme Lord. He utilizes his tongue only for the glorification of the Supreme Lord. Only such a person who possesses these five qualities is said to be a saint. So in that way. So such saintly people should certify that he is an avatar. That he is an avatar. And thirdly, there are certain bodily symptoms which are found uh, which are found in an avatar. There are certain marks which can be found on his palms, and there are certain marks which can be found on his feet, and his uh, and his shoulders will be so long that without bending he can touch his knees. That is why he said Ajanu lambita bujau, lambita bujau. Buja means hands. Hands should be so long that without even bending he can touch his knees. and his eyes will be so big and like a lotus petal, that the end of the eyes will be touching the ears. And his shoulders will be very broad, and his waist will be very thin. And in this way, there are many descriptions in the scriptures, which are gross and which are grosser. And these are the symptoms of a Mahanubhava, that is a great personality, like avatar. So these are some bodily symptoms which are to be found, which are to be, because why I'm mentioning all, and he'll be extremely beautiful. Not that these people, Babaji is coming with big beard and showing up and saying that, see, I'm an avatar. What kind of an avatar are you? Why don't you look for yourself in a mirror and see for yourself how beautiful you are looking with that weird beard, and such a dirty skin and this and that. So the Lord is. And in this way, there are certain symptoms by which we can identify an avatar. We can identify an avatar. And also, when the avatar appears, he performs certain Herculean tasks which cannot be imitated by any personality by any means. By any means. It isn't that he just makes a small little magic and pulls out Shivlinga from his mouth, or a little bit of ash from his hand, or a small piece of gold chain from his pocket. These small little magics are not the ones which actually make a person God. They can be better known as magicians than God. They can be better known as magicians than God. God is not a cheap magician who does all of these cheap magic, which are which are really unworthy. God is someone who does such a task which nobody can ever imitate. For example, when the Lord appeared as Lord Krishna, he lifted Govardhan mountain for 7 days and 7 nights without a break on his on a little finger of his left hand. Let any Babaji come and show that he can lift a small little stone for 7 days and 7 nights. We'll see how we can become a god. And people so wrongly, they try to claim that they are God and indulge in such activities which actually um, uh, kind of a big disgrace for, for God itself. Just like, I mean, there are many imposters who claim themselves as God, and they indulge in illicit activities, like they call themselves that, yes, I am Krishna, and these are my gopis, and I'll play Ras Leela with them. But this foolish person, he forgets the thing that before even performing Ras Leela, the Lord first of all lifted Govardhan. You first lift Govardhan and show, then you can play Ras Leela, then we'll see. But these people do not understand all of this, and they and and it is very easy to become God nowadays. So that's why people indulge in these kind of activities. So last point I would like to mention in this concept is that never ever can a jiva become the supreme. Never ever a jiva can elevate by any sorts of penances or any tapasya or any sadhana. He can never ever become supreme God. A jiva will remain tiny soul for eternally, and similarly the Supreme Lord is supreme eternally. God, the position of God is not a position like an MLA or MP, wherein any person can be elevated to that position. Rather, God's position is an eternal position, and God will remain God eternally. And we, Jivas, we remain the servants of God eternally. We can never, ever, by any means become God. Any person who claims himself to be God, Srila Prabhupada used to say, any person who claims himself to be a God, he is not God, he is a dog. As it is, I know, G-O-D, God, and reverse, what is it? D-O-G, dog. He is not a God, he is dog. Because no person can by any means become God. By any means become God. And even at times people begin to worship Guru, considering him to be God. This is also a false notion. Guru is also a servant of God. Guru is also a servant of God who, who teaches us by his example to how to serve God. Who teaches us by his example how to serve God. And a guru can also never ever become God. He always remains the servant of God, and guru would also never ever claim himself to be God. Rather, guru is a real guru is one who actually claims that, yes, I am the dog of God. I'm the dog of God, or a guru is one who claims that I'm the servant of God. So one who carries such a consciousness only can actually be regarded as a guru, not otherwise. So in this way, these all facts are to be understood with respect to this concept of God. So having discussed this, so we'll slowly move on to the next concept that we are going to discuss today, that is karma. So, in this concept of karma, I'll be discussing about what is meant by karma, what are the different variations of karma, different types of karma. And there is a popular notion in the society that work is worship. Is really work is worship or something else? And also we'll also discuss that many people also carry this false notion that it is enough if we perform our karma. It is enough if we perform our karma. If I lead a rightful life, it is enough. But this is not enough. So this also will be discussing today. And and yeah, I mean, if we were to perform our karma, then how a person is expected to perform his karma, and what are the qualifications that he is supposed to ensure while performing karma? Any activity, what are the qualifications, mm, what are the principles that we are supposed to ensure while performing any activity? What are those principles that also will be discussing in today's session. And finally, we'll be concluding our session with the by discussing upon why good things happen with bad people and why bad things happen to good people. Many times people complain, Proji, my neighbor is such a sin personified. But how come everything good is happening with him? And whereas I never commit any sin, I'm such a good person. And why is it that everything bad happens to me? So this discussion will be taking up today, towards the last. Okay, so this will be the course of our discussion for today. So to begin with, Karma. What does this word karma literally mean? Karma means action. Action. Any action per se can be called karma because the very literal meaning of karma is action. That is, by any activity that we perform, whether good or bad or as per the scriptures or against the scriptures or sin or pious or spiritual, any activity for that matter can be called karma. Because karma actually literally means action. And there are three different kinds of, three types of karma. The three types of karma. One, sakama karma, and second, vikarma, and third, akarma. Rather, we can even say this way that karma can be classified into three types. One is karma, akarma, and vikarma. Karma is a category of karma itself. So in this way, these three categories we can say karma, akarma, and vikarma. These are the three different categories of karma. I'll simply describe what actually each one of them stand for. Vikarma means vikruti rupena karma, that is sinful activities. Any activity that is performed which is against the which is against the principles of the scriptures is said to be a sinful activity, and such sinful activities are considered under this category, which is called vikarma, or in other words, pap. Pap. And when we perform vikarma, then we get sinful reactions. Then we earn sinful reactions. And karma, karma means those actions which are uh, performed as per the strictures of the scriptures. Whatever principles are described in the scriptures, any action that is performed as per the principles given in the scriptures are said to be karma. And this karma can also further be divided into two different types. One is sakama karma and nishkama karma. Sakama karma means sakamaha. Kamaha means desire. Sa means sahit ya with. To perform an action with a particular material motive, with a particular material desire is called sakama karma. Sakam karma. I'm performing this particular ritual so that I get this material benefit. I'm performing this vrata so that I get a better job. This is an example of sakam karma. And nishkam karma means performing an activity as per the principles of the scriptures without any material motive. Without any material motive, performing it as a duty. Without any material motive. This is called nishkama. Nishkama means without any material motive, without any material desire. This is called nishkam karma. So in this way, this is karma. And vikarma, I told, akarma, I'm telling now. Akarma. Akarma means which is the word is usually used to negate as a matter of negation. And akarma actually refers to those activities for which there is neither sinful reaction nor pious result. such an activity is actually called akarma. And in this category, what activities are regarded under this category? Under this category, the spiritual activities are regarded. All the spiritual activities that we may perform as per the principles of the scriptures, those spiritual activities are actually regarded under this category called akarma. So in this way, these are the three categories of karma. Karma, vikarma, akarma. Akarma means spiritual activities. Vikarma means sinful activities. Karma means pious activities. For simple understanding. So this way. And now, whenever we perform a pious, I mean, this is a simple concept. If you carefully hear, you'll be able to understand, because there is a great misconception in today's society in regards to this concept. That is, whenever we perform a pious activity, we get a pious reaction or pious result, and that is credited into our pious account. And there is another account which is our sin account. Whenever we perform a sinful activity, the reaction for that sinful activity will be deposited in that sin account. So in this way, there are two mutually exclusive accounts. One is for pious result, and second is for the sinful results. And don't think that your pious activities will kind of nullify your sinful results. Both of them are put in different accounts. And you are supposed to mm, supposed to mm, experience or utilize whatever you have deposited in both the accounts, unless as long as both the accounts have something in them. Unless and until they completely become zero, until then you will have to take birth again and again. You'll have to take birth again and again. As long as something remains in these accounts, you'll have to take birth again and again. You will be given an option to get out of this material world only when both of these accounts are completely zero. Completely zero. So in this way, simply by that is why it is not enough to simply lead a pious life. It is not enough to simply lead a pious life. Even if you lead a simple pious life, things will be credited into your pious account, and you will have to come back to experience those pious results. And coming to the material world means taking birth, dying, disease, and old age. All of these are going to come by default. By default. And in this way, we'll be going round and round and round and round. So that's why simply leading a pious life is not at all enough. This is one reason why pious life is just not enough. Because we'll have to come back to this material world, and coming back to the material world means we cannot escape the miserable nature of the material world. Although because of the pious credits, we may get some good, great facility, but still, howsoever good facility we may attain, but still there are certain miseries which we cannot escape. Just for example, even a person who takes birth in an Ambani family or a very rich family, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that he will not get sick. It doesn't mean that he will not get sick. And when he gets sick, can he say that I am such a rich person, I have so many hundreds and hundreds of servants under me. Why not any one of them take the pain of my disease? He cannot transfer it. He will have to go through the pain of the disease by himself. When there is a certain cut on his hand, nobody else is going to take his pain. He has to endure his own pain. So in that way, and if he becomes old, nobody is going to take his old age. Rather, he himself has to go through the pains of his old age. So in that way, although a person may attain great facilities, but still a person will have to go through the miserable nature of the material world. He cannot escape it. That is why the simply being pious and accumulating pious results is just not enough. It's just not enough. And forget about sinful life. That is anyways that anyways out of question. We should not get into that sort of a life wherein we perform sinful activities. Any trouble that we are facing in our life is just because of some or the other sin that we have performed in the past. Right from the headache to death, every anything that we are experiencing um, which is miserable physically or mentally or any otherwise, so all of these pains are just because of some or the other sinful activity that we have committed in the past. So that's why leading a sinful life means prepare yourself to face a lot of suffering in the future. So all the suffering that we are going through now is a result of the sins that we have committed in the past. So that's why if we were to stop suffering, then we have to stop committing sins. If we were to stop suffering, then we'll have to stop committing sins. There is no meaning simply keeping on blaming the situations, blaming people around us, blaming God for whatever suffering we are going through, because whatever suffering we are going through, it is a result of our own sinful activities. So that's why a person who understands this concept of karma, he becomes more responsible because he understands that he owns a responsibility. He cannot blame anybody. He cannot blame anyone around him. He cannot blame the situations. He cannot blame people. He cannot blame God. Rather, who is to be blamed? We are the ones who have to carry the blame, because we are the ones who have committed sin, because of which we are suffering right now. So that's why if you were to escape or finish off with the suffering in the future, then we'll have to give up the sinful life. Second, so that is why there's no question about leading a sinful life. And then what to say about pious life? Scriptures say that don't even get into the pious life also, because that will also earn you a lot of pious credit, and you'll have to, in order to experience the pious credit, then you'll have to come back to the material world. And coming to the material world means you'll have to go through all the miserable nature of the material world. Then what to do then? Then what to do? Scriptures are not, are asking us to refrain from vikarma and karma. Then what is to be performed? What is left? Akarma is left. Akarma is left. Better perform akarma so that you will not have to earn any pious credit nor any sin credit. Both the accounts will be free from any deposits. And and simply by performing akarma. And what are these akarmas? Akarmas are those devotional activities or the spiritual activities which are performed for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Uh, those devotional activities or spiritual activities which are performed to please Krishna, these are akarma. And second reason why a person should not simply stick to dharmic life. See, there are two things. One is moral life and spiritual life. In other words, dharmic jivan and adhyatmic jivan. Dharmic jivan and adhyatmic jivan. People most often they talk about this moral life. At the most, they try to lead a moral life. But here, as we are understanding, moral life is just not enough. Why so is, what is the difference between dharmic life or a moral life, and a spiritual life or an adhyatmic life? What is the difference? I'll explain it with a small little example. Mm. For example, a person is driving his car. And while driving his car, he is following all the traffic rules very very religiously, is following all of the traffic signals, traffic rules, and whatever is to be followed while driving a vehicle. He is maintaining the right speed and is giving signals and is following the traffic signals and this and that. Everything is very religiously is following all of the traffic rules. And being impressed at his driving, I went up to him and asked him, I mean, you seem to be driving so nicely. I just want to know, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? And the person replied, I don't know. I don't know. I just got to drive, so I'm driving. I just got to drive, so I'm driving. I don't know where am supposed to go. Is this person not insane? In one sense, this person is following all the traffic signals and driving the car at the right speed and this and that, but he doesn't know where he wants to go. That means he's an insane person, he's a foolish person who doesn't even know where he wants to go. And this is exactly what is dharmic life. They follow all the rules and regulations, but the problem is that they do not have any philosophy. Mm. They don't know what the purpose of life is. And what is the purpose of following all of the rules. They don't know. They simply have to follow the rules they are following. That's it. So this is what is a dharmic life. Whereas adhyatmic life or a spiritual life is that life where a person has a very clear understanding about what is the philosophy, and what is the purpose of life, what is the goal of life, where is it that I'm supposed to go, and what is the path that I'm supposed to take. He knows the destination, he knows the path. Hmm. Whereas a dharmic one, he doesn't know the destination. If we don't know the destination, there is no question of knowing the path. Hmm. There's no question of knowing the path. So that's why this dharmic person is unaware about what the goal of life is and what is the path to be taken. Whereas a spiritual person, he knows the goal of life, and he also very well knows the path to be taken to get there. And this is a spiritual person. This is a spiritual person, and this is the difference between moral life and spiritual life. Now it is up to us whether we wish to simply lead a moral life or we really want to make our life more meaningful by leading a spiritual life. Spiritual life, and and for that matter, the very conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is spiritual life, not moral life. Hmm. Not moral life. Rather, in other words, we can say Arjun was trying to be moral, act moral, and Krishna condemned his morality and said, Arjun, because all the reasons that he has stated, why he doesn't want to fight, if you study all of the reasons that he has stated why he doesn't want to fight, then we can find that all of those reasons appear to be very very moral and ethical. Very very moral and ethical, just like who in this world would ever wish to sacrifice the entire property for his brothers, and rather he would wish to go and become a sannyasi and live by begging. If somebody does this, let me give away all my property to my brothers and let me go into the forest and live by begging, then that person will be recognized as a great person who has sacrificed his entire property for his brothers. He hasn't fought with them, with his brothers. In this way, he'll gain great recognition. But here, Krishna chastised him for what he is doing in return. So here Arjuna was trying to become moral. Rather, Krishna condemned his morality and told morality is not what you are supposed to follow. Rather, you are supposed to follow spirituality. And slowly and gradually, Krishna brought Arjuna to the point where Arjuna started following the path of spirituality. Path of spirituality. So in that way, because Arjuna was whatever reasons Arjuna was stating, Arjuna was also told ki, Krishna, I don't want to fight because killing such people who are worshipable for me like Dronacharya and Bhishma would earn me great sin, and I'll end up in the hellish planets for ages together. So why should I commit such sin and live in hell and suffer in hell like anything? So these are all very valid moral reasons. And these are the reasons which Krishna would condemn in the later on chapters, and he finally establishes how spirituality is superior to morality and why Arjuna should take to spirituality than morality. So that is the reason. This is the very conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, to lead a spiritual life, not just a moral life. So is this clear with all of you? The difference between spiritual life and moral life, and why spiritual life, why not moral life? All of this. And further moving, many people, as I've said, many people say that it is Gita prescribes us to simply do our work. Simply do our work. And my work itself is worship. Work is worship. But there is no statement, no such statement in Bhagavad Gita wherein it is said work itself is worship. This is the first thing. And secondly, if work itself is considered to be worship, for example, if a software engineer says, my means of worship is coding. From early in the morning, I'll start coding until night. I'll keep on coding, doing coding, and this is my means of worship. And what actually is the purpose of worship? Pleasing the Lord. And do you think that simply developing such codes would ever please God? And for that matter, anybody in this world can claim my work itself is worship. For example, um, a thief can also say that for me, my occupation is thievery. So so that for me, this thievery itself is a means of worship. People can claim this way. Because once I was distributing Bhagavad Gita in the market, and the person was smoking. I approached him, requesting him to take Gita. Then he told, I know everything about Gita. Then I requested, please let me know. Then he told, yes, Gita prescribes us to perform our work for the pleasure of God. So that's why I'm smoking the cigarette for the pleasure of God. He can say that he's smoking cigarette for the pleasure of God, but is it the reality that God would be pleased when he smokes? Mm. So this is the kind of wrong notions that people carry. Mm. So that is why, I mean, for example, if work itself would have been the means of worship, then why would so many, so many different types of worship and so many elaborate details and descriptions about worship are given in the scriptures? You perform Ekadashi, you perform Parikrama, you do this and you do that. I mean, this is all nonsense then. This is all nonsense then. If work itself would have been the means of worship, then this is all nonsense. Then why would the scriptures mm, speak in this way, recommending us to do all of these activities? So that's why work in itself is not the means of worship. No, work in itself is not the means of worship. This is what is to be understood. So that is why simply, please do not believe in this concept wherein people simply say, do your karma and you are safe. No, that is not going to happen. Because the world is so made that in the course of performing any action, we are bound to commit many sinful activities. Knowingly or unknowingly, we are bound to perform many sinful activities, and the material nature wouldn't excuse us for all those sinful activities which we are committing in the course of performing any action. We cannot simply say that I have performed this unknowingly. No. You will be held responsible for whatever actions you have committed. For whatever actions you have committed, you cannot simply go, for example, if we are convicted for some particular crime, and we are put before the judge, and the judge asks, why did you commit this murder? Then I say, sir, गलती से हो गया, पता नहीं था. I didn't know. I didn't know that it is wrong to commit murder, so I committed murder. So excuse me for this time. So would the judge excuse us for our ignorance? Ignorance is no excuse. We having taken birth as a human, it is our responsibility to know what is right and what is wrong and live by what is right. We cannot simply make excuses and say that I don't know, or please excuse me. That's not going to work. Because we being given higher faculties in the form of higher intelligence and higher consciousness, we are expected to live a very responsible life with an understanding of what is right and what is wrong. Now the question comes up, who will tell us what is right and what is wrong? Who will tell us? For example, when you are put in front of the judge, you can say that, Judge, sir, as per me, uh, killing this person is not wrong. Would the judge simply go by your opinion, or will he refer to the opinion of the law? He would refer to the opinion of the law. Nobody is going to care for our opinions. Rather, what is actually followed is the law. So similarly, the universe is also running as per universal laws. And we being humans, we are responsible to understand what is right as per the law and what is wrong as per the law. We are supposed to understand. And where do we get to understand this? We get to understand these facts from scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. When you read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, you'll get to understand what is right and what is wrong, what you're supposed to do and what you're supposed not to do. What you're not supposed to do. All these things you'll get to understand when you read these scriptures. Unfortunately, we haven't ever read, because of which we are not aware of what is good and what is wrong. That's why we are simply going by our opinions and fighting over our opinions. Because as per you, something can be good and the same thing can be wrong as per me. The same thing can be wrong as per me, but as per you, it may be good. But your opinion, my opinion, nobody is going to ask. What is actually regarded or considered is the opinion of the scriptures, the law. So that's why we having given this responsible human life, we are supposed to understand what the law is and follow and abide by the law. Abide by the law. That is why we should read scriptures on a regular basis to understand what is right and what is wrong. And next, when it comes to this notion of work is worship, as I've told, yes, work can in one sense be regarded as worship. There is a particular clause according to which work can also be worship. How? How is it that when work is performed as in a spiritual manner, when work is performed in a spiritual manner, then it is regarded as an akarma, and then it comes as a part of a worship. And how is it that work can also be performed as a karma? See, so for that, I'll make a few points which we can try to understand. So, for this, first of all, what Krishna talks about work in Bhagavad Gita is karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhut ma te sangosti akarmani. These are certain qualities which we are supposed to ensure while performing any activity. That is, karmani eva adhikaraste. That is, everybody has the right to perform action or activity or karma. Everybody has the right to perform activity. And secondly, karmani evadika araste ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma phaleshu kadachana means never claim ownership over the results. Never consider yourself to be never claim ownership over the results. And thirdly, ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetu. And never consider yourself to be the cause of the results. That is, never consider yourself to be the, never take the credit of the results. One is, we should not claim the result. And second is, one should not claim the credit of the result also. So in that way, we are supposed to perform our activity. Secondly, we should not claim the results. We should not claim proprietorship over the results. And thirdly, we should not claim credit for the results. And finally, fourth is ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangosti akarmani. Just because you are not entitled to receive the results and you are not given the credit for the results, don't become lazy to perform your duty. Because when we say that you won't get the result, nor you will be given the credit for the result, then person would think, why should I perform work on the first hand? then better stop working also. No result, no credit. Why work? Hmm. But here Krishna says, no, you should work. Although you are not entitled for the results, you are not given the credit, but still you should work as a matter of your duty. And then for people would ask, then what is the motivation for my work? Because people usually derive their motivation to work from results. They derive their inspiration to work from results. When there are when it is said that you should not claim the results, then why would a person, and what is the motivation for him to work? Then Krishna says, yes, you should perform action for self purification, atma shuddhaye. Atma shuddhaye. We should perform an activity for self purification, because when we perform an activity as a matter of duty, without any material motive, then such an activity will actually purify your existence. You will purify your heart from anger, greed, lust, and all of these. From all of these impurities, our heart will be purified. So when our heart is purified this way, only then there is a chance of leading a selfless, pure life in service of God, which actually can bring about peace and happiness in our life. Or else all our plans to lead a peaceful life, a happy life, will always be frustrated, as long as we do not purify ourselves. Because our misery, our miserable state as of now, our peacelessness is actually a result of the impurities that we are carrying in our heart. Because we have the impurities of anger, lust, greed, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. Matsarya means envy. Mada means pride, because we are carrying all of these impurities in our heart. That is why these all impurities are bringing about great misery in our lives. And as long as we do not purify ourselves of all of these impurities, there is no question of any sort of peace or happiness in one's life. And how can we purify? By performing the activities as per the given, as per the conditions that I have stated now. As per the conditions that I have stated now. So in that way, when a person performs activity without any material motive, then he will not be subjected to any pious or impious result. No sinful reaction, no pious reaction, because this activity is now regarded as a karma. This activity is now regarded as a karma. There is no pious or sinful reaction. And when we take to such activity, then a person slowly, gradually purifies and he gradually elevates. And next, and Krishna also, I mean, this is not finished here. There's an addition to it. Krishna also says, Yogastav Kuru Karmani. Kuru Karmani, you perform your karma. How? Yogastaha. By situating yourself in yoga. Yoga means connection. Connection with whom? Connection with God. Connection with God. While remaining in connection with Krishna, will have to perform our activities. We'll have to perform our activities while remaining connection with God. And how can we remain in connection with God? For that, in 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Ma manusmaryuchyata yudhyacha tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmaryudhyacha. In that is said, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Actually, in this chapter, Krishna is talking about how a person should leave his body, or how a person should give his final exam. Final exam, as I've explained in the last session, final exam is the time of death. Time of death, and how we are supposed to face death. There Krishna says, Antakale samameva smaran muktva kalevaram. You will have to remember me at the time of death. Only then you will come back to me. As long as you remember something else, you will go there. If you remember me, you will come back to me. Hmm. This is the final exam. So final exam, question paper is out, answer is also out. Only one thing is which is undetermined or unknown is the time of exam. Hmm. This is such a nice exam. Question paper is also out, answer is also out. Hmm. But only thing undefined is the time of exam. Any time while you are moving on the road, you'll suddenly be handed over the question paper and will be asked to write down the answer. Mm. While sleeping, you'll be handed over the paper and you'll be asked to write down the answer. Mm. You know the answer, but still we may not write. So this is the state. Then for Krishna says, then how can you actually remember me at the time of death? It is not so easy. Mm. If you were to remember me at the time of death, the only way is to practice all the life long. All the life, and how we are supposed to practice, that is what Krishna is saying. Tasmat. Therefore, Arjuna, therefore, if you were to remember me at the time of death, what you're supposed to do? Sarveshu Kaleshu. Sarva means Sarveshu Kaleshu means all the time. Sarveshu Kaleshu, all the time, what you're supposed to do? Mam Anusmara. You'll have to remember me all the time. Yudhyacha. While performing while fighting, you'll have to remember me constantly. Hmm. Just because you are doing any activity, we cannot forget Krishna. Rather, we should always remember Krishna and perform any activity. Now, the question is, how can we remember Krishna all the time? What is the way or means to remember Krishna all the time? The best way to remember Krishna all the time is to chant his names. Mm. Just as we always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting the names of Krishna all the time, while performing any activity, we can maintain that constant remembrance of Krishna. Just as, for example, if we are sweeping the floor, your hand is only engaged in sweeping the floor, you can recite the names of God with your mouth, right? You can recite the names of God with your mouth. While you're cooking, you can chant with your mouth. And while walking, you can chant. While taking bath, we can chant. While waiting for a bus, we can chant. While standing in a queue, we can chant. So in this way, if one can figure out n number of ways, he can remember Krishna all the time while performing any activity. And one should mold and arrange his life in such a way that he can constantly remember Krishna all the time. For example, wherever he can put up some portraits in his home. Wherever he sees, he'll see Krishna. And when he has to eat something, rather than eating it like that, he can offer it to the Lord and and honor that food as the prasad of the Lord. As the prasad of the Lord. And this has been our Vedic culture, wherein whatever was cooked at home was first offered to the Lord. Only then that food was accepted by the family members as a mercy of the Lord, or as prasadam. So in that way, one has to mold his life in such a way that he can constantly remember Krishna. So these are different ways where we can remember Krishna all the time. So in that way, one has to perform. Yogastav Kuru Karmani, by constantly chanting the names of Krishna while performing any activity. So in this way, anybody should perform any activity. This is the last thing that I wanted to share. And mm, and one more thing I wish to share before finishing it off, that is, when it is said that we are not entitled to claim the results nor the credit of the results. ठीक है, then ठीक है, I'm not going to claim. What should I do with the result then? What should I do with the result? It is said, the results, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The result, the authority to enjoy the result of any activity lies with Krishna only. Lies with Krishna only. He is the only person who is entitled to enjoy the results of any activity. So that is why whatever results we earn by performing any activity is supposed to be offered to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Any result that we may derive in any form. And what should we do with the credit? The credit should also be offered to Krishna. So in this way, the results and the credit both are offered to Krishna. And this way, that yoga that we are talking about, yogasto kuru karmani, we should perform an activity while remaining in connection with Krishna. How can we remain in connection with Krishna? By offering these results to Krishna, by offering credit to Krishna. So when we do these things, then we remain in connection with Krishna and perform the activities. So in this way, and when we perform activities in this mood, only then such activities will be considered as worship. Only such activities can be considered as worship. Just like Arjuna is fighting here, but he is performing his duty as a matter of worship by adopting this mood. And and it is not, we cannot simply straight away adopt this mood. One has to gradually bring about a change in his consciousness by practicing spirituality. By practicing spirituality, one has to slowly and gradually bring about this consciousness that I'll have to offer these results to Krishna, I'll have to offer the credit to Krishna, I should not claim the result. Because it has been our habit to claim the result, it has been our habit to claim the credit. It is very difficult for us to give these up. And if we were to do so, then we'll have to kind of elevate our consciousness. And how do we elevate our consciousness? By slowly and gradually purifying our existence by performing spiritual activities. And what are those spiritual activities that we'll be discussing tomorrow? So this is a brief discussion on karma. So with this, we'll finish our session for today. And any questions we can take up, and tomorrow we'll have the last session.
So much, Prabhuji. As Prabhuji directed, we'll have question answer session now. P. Sharma Prabhuji, please unmute yourself and ask the question. I would request C.P. Sharma Prabhuji to please unmute and ask the question. Seems like Prabhuji is not able to unmute. Let's speak with Soumya Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hello. Yeah. Guruji, pranam. I'm C.P. Sharma.
Yes.
I've been able to unmute myself, C.P. Sharma.
Yes, Sharma ji, please.
Guruji, I have understood the karma's concept. First, that the algebraic sum of karma and vikarma, unless it becomes zero, you don't stop coming back to this world again and again. Fine. Second thing is the third thing, the akarma, the spirituality. Does the spirituality differ for everybody? In the sense that Lord Krishna is telling in the war field Arjun to do vikarma. So does it mean that the spirituality can also take the shape of vikarma? Or he is asking somebody to kill. After all, it's a jeev. So, and for somebody else, it is the chanting of the mantras can be spirituality. So do you mean to say that the spirituality changes its forms from person to person,
Okay.
or it is a constant feature,
Very good
or
question. Thank you.
universal feature?
Thank you for the question. See, first of all, the fighting that Arjuna is performing on the war field, it is not vikarma. Mm. It is not vikarma. It is not sinful activity, because here Arjuna is not fighting for his own selfish reasons. Mm. Just as when a person is standing on the border, and fighting for his country doesn't earn him sinful activity, sin, because he's not doing it for his own selfish purpose. He's not killing somebody, or he's not doing something for his own selfish thing. Rather, he's doing as a matter of his duty.
Yeah.
Arjun was also thinking that he was performing a sinful activity by doing so. That's why Krishna clarified it to him, saying that Arjuna, this is not a sinful activity, because you being a Kshatriya, it is your duty to fight for the right, for dharma, for the religion. You're supposed to fight. So that is why this doesn't come under sin. This is the first thing. And secondly, as you were saying, spiritual activities. See, first of all, I'll just give a brief understanding what actually spirituality is. Spirituality is actually nothing but loving God. Is actually nothing but loving God. Loving God. And 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 loving God means we obey His words, we surrender on to Him. Surrendering to Him means following His instructions. Following His instructions, we are just following His instructions. That's all. And and when we are loving somebody, we will serve Him. We will serve Him. And whatever activities that we will be doing in the course of spirituality, that is offering bhoga to Him, offering clothes to Him, or I mean, serving Him, chanting His names, um, and spreading His mission, and this and that, and all of these spiritual activities that we do, is a matter of expressing our love towards Krishna. Is a means of expressing our love towards Krishna. And similarly, when we are performing an activity as per the scriptures, when we are performing a particular duty as per the scriptures, and as per the scriptures, in the sense ki whatever conditions that I have just mentioned to you now, so when we fulfill all those conditions, then that activity can also be considered as a karma or a spiritual activity. These activities like chanting the names of God, offering bhoga to Him, and offering prayers to Him, serving His devotees, all of these are common spiritual activities. And there are certain activities which may not be common for everyone. For example, for a housewife and for a person who is working in a police department, the activity may differ. The activity may differ. The housewife performs a different activity, and the police may perform a different activity. For him, the activity may differ, but the core spiritual activities always remain the same. That is, even for a police, also has to chant the names of God. He also has to perform worship to the Lord. He also has to perform other spiritual activities. And when it comes to his duty, he has to perform his duty in such a way that it also comes under spiritual activity. So in that way, there are certain activities which are common for everyone, and there are certain activities which may differ as per their duty. And these duties should be performed as I've just explained now. In that consciousness, only then they will come under spiritual activities, or else not.
Ultimately, it is a surrender.
Surrender.
Thank you.
Thank you.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद गुरुजी. हरे कृष्णा. प्रणाम.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that question, and Prabhuji for that answer. Soumya Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to ask that, like you said, I'll take the example of bad karma. So if someone is doing bad karma, then you get the results of bad karma in your next life. But there is also concept of hell. And in hell also you get the results of bad karma. So how is it divided, or what is it?
Good. Because just one session, so I could not explain everything in regards to the karma. There are certain sinful activities which earn greater sin, and certain sinful activities earn little bit of sin. And when we perform such very heinous sinful activities, they earn us great sin, because of which, and such sinful reactions can only be given to us in hell. So that's why when we perform such heinous sinful activities, then we are sent to hellish planets, so to undergo the reactions of these heinous sinful activities that we have performed, which have got us very serious sin in our account. And for all the little ones, things are settled here in this world itself. Things are settled
Okay.
here in this world itself. There, for whatever big ones that we have performed will be sent there, and for the small ones, things will be settled here itself. So in that way, it is so divided. Hope that you got the answer.
And Prabhuji, one more thing. Like you said that we should chant. So is chanting equal to listening to kirtan?
Chanting equal to listening to kirtan. Yes, by listening to kirtan, you are engaging your ears in the service of Krishna. Then what about your mouth? By chanting, we engage our mouth as well, because we are supposed to purify each and every limb of our body. We use our mouth to chant the names of God. We use our ears to hear the names of God. So in that way, the mouth and the ears can be purified. And we use our eyes to see the form of the Lord. So in that way, we'll have to ensure. But definitely, kirtan, listening to kirtan itself is also very purifying. But at the same time, chanting is also important.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
And Mataji, with Prabhuji's permission, slight addition, third dimension. When we chant aloud in group, that becomes Kirtan, Sankirtan. Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Trilokesh Jana Roy, Prabhuji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Prabhuji, my question is, in our student life, our main activity is to study. So, the study comes under which category of karma, and how we can offer our results to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is Krishna?
Study. See, studies, a student. First of all, we should understand that the actual purpose of studying science is to know Krishna. So that we can better appreciate the world and the person behind the world, that is Krishna. So if we look at science with this vision, then you'll, as and when you understand more and more intricacies of the world, then you will better and better appreciate the glory of the Supreme Lord. So in that way. And secondly, see, for example, if a student takes to spirituality, and devotion is chanting, but if he neglects his studies, what will the other people say? The other students and other people will think that, since the time he has taken to this devotion, he is neglecting his studies. Maybe all the devotees are irresponsible. All the devotees are irresponsible. And in this way, by neglecting our studies, we are earning bad name to the community of devotees and to the Supreme Lord, Krishna. The community of devotees and Krishna, we are bringing bad name to them. So what we are supposed to do? We are supposed to bring about good name for Krishna, right? So rather, if you are performing your spiritual activities very diligently, at the same time, if you are studying also nicely, then people will appreciate, yes, he is, after he came to devotion, his performance has got much better. Much better. That means spirituality is helping. So let us send my children also to learn spirituality. So in that way, you have earned good name for Krishna, no? You have earned good name for Krishna. So in this way, you are engaging your studies in Krishna service. And thirdly, whatever after studying, I mean, what is the purpose of studying? We get a good job. And when we get a good job and earn, we should offer the results, whatever monetary results that we get in the service of Krishna. We use it for a service, for preaching his mission. We use it. Then when you use it that way, that means whatever you have studied and whatever you are earning, all of that gets spiritualized. Because you're doing it not just for your own self, rather you're doing it for the service of Krishna. Because you are using it to serve Krishna, no? So in that way, you can spiritualize your studies. And lastly, and we should also not neglect performing our spiritual duties in the name of studies. That is also there. Simply for the sake of bringing good name, if you neglect your spiritual activities, then what spiritual consciousness will remain? So that's why we'll have to strike a good balance between spiritual practice and studies, and also do our best to perform well in our studies. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that question. Ashrita Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My question was that, like you said that Arjun was giving moral reasons to Krishna, but he knew, but as he was a devotee of Krishna and a friend of Krishna, he must have known what is dharmic life and adhyatmic life or life. So why was he giving moral reasons to Krishna not to fight?
Yes, Krishna himself says in Gita that Bhaktosi me saka cheti. Yes, Arjuna, you are my devotee. Krishna says that Arjuna is a devotee. Although Arjuna was the devotee of the Supreme Lord, but still temporarily Arjuna was put into illusion by the Lord himself. Krishna only purposefully puts Arjuna into illusion so that he will bring about a situation wherein Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita to him. And by speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna gave Bhagavad Gita to all of us. To create a situation wherein Krishna can speak Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has put Arjuna into such an illusion wherein wherein he made such statements, which actually do not go well or do not go by his actual status of being a devotee. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that answer. And thank you, Mataji, for that question. Kumar Nagraj, Prabhuji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
And
Prabhuji, I have a question. Is offering tulsi leaves with bhog is right practice or what?
offering Tulsi with?
Tulsi leaves with bhog to Krishna.
With bhoga.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it is the right practice because Tulsi leaves are a must to offer anything to Lord Krishna, because Krishna doesn't accept anything without Tulsi. Because Tulsi being the dearmost to Lord Krishna, he would accept our offering only when he C is tulsi. Or else our offering has no great value in the eyes of Krishna.
And also, it is said that we don't have to plug tulsi leaves on Sunday. Is it right or what?
Actually, in Vaishnava Sampradaya, we follow this condition wherein we do not pluck tulsi leaves on Dvadashi. On Dvadashi, not on Sundays, because at times there are certain differences in the rules followed by Karma Kandis and Vaishnavas. Karma Kandis and Vaishnavas. That's why when we get introduced to Vaishnava Sampradaya, certain small little difference we come across like this.
On Sunday we can offer.
We pluck and we offer. Only on Dvadasis we don't. But on Dvadasi, whatever bhog we are offering, we'll have to have tulsi. For that, we'll have to pluck tulsi on Ekadashi itself and keep it so that we can use it on Dvadasi. Take it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that question. I hope that has clarified other devotees' doubt also with reference to offering tulsi leaf. Bhumika Jha Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Then,
Prabhuji, you have mentioned that the question why good thing happens to bad people and why bad thing happens to good people. Can you answer it, please?
I did not answer it in the session.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Thank you. So I also brought up this question but couldn't answer this. See, whatever actions that we are performing, they act like seeds. They act like seeds. And each seed takes its own time to fructify. Some seeds fructify instantly, and some seeds take a few days to fructify, and some seeds take a few months, and some seeds may take a few years to fructify. Similarly, any action that we perform are like seeds which may take different amounts of time to produce their reactions, to give the reactions. For some activities, for some actions, we may receive instant reactions. And for some actions, we may receive reactions days later. For some actions, we may receive reactions months later. And for some actions, we may receive reactions years later. And for some actions, we may receive reactions lifetimes later. It depends. Because these karmic reactions are taking different times to fructify. That is why it sometimes appears that a good person is something bad is happening with good people and something good is happening with bad people, because we usually try to relate it to their instant activities. But it doesn't go that way. Yes, for example, a person committed a murder, and later on he got influenced by a saintly person, and he joined the ashram there. He joined the ashram there, and after a couple of years, when the police got to know that this person who has committed this murder is living in this ashram, although now he has taken to saintly life, will the police arrest that person or not? They're supposed to arrest him, no? They're supposed to arrest him, although he is now although he is now leading a very saintly life, but still he'll be arrested, because for whatever he has committed in the past, he is supposed to endure the reactions for it. No. So then when we see this, when we see a saintly person being arrested, then we will think, why such bad thing is happening with such a good person like him? Because we don't know the past. Because we don't know the past. So that's why we are thinking, I mean, why is it that bad things are happening with such good people? Fact is that bad things can never happen with good people. Bad things will happen with bad people only for whatever bad activities that they have committed in the past. Although they may be good now, they may be good now. So in this way, we'll have to understand this. And similar thing applies for why do good things happen with bad people also. Same thing happens. Hope that you could understand with this explanation. This is just a brief explanation.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, Prabhuji, for that explanation. Shivika Gupta Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, my question is that some people, they take to spirituality and to devotional service in a lot easier manner than others who may not follow any devotional service even throughout their whole lifetimes. So, Prabhuji, how much we are influenced by spiritual forces around us, is it also determined by our past karma, or is it just our independent will, whether we wish to be influenced by or follow devotional practices or not? Thank you.
Okay. So this is you're basically referring to the receptivity of a person in regards to spirituality. How receptive a person is for spirituality, what actually determines his receptivity. See, actually this receptivity is in other words called Shraddha. Shraddha or faith. And initially, initially the Shraddha is determined, or the receptivity is determined by something called Ajnata Sukruti. Ajnata Sukruti are those activities, are those devotional activities which are performed unknowingly. Those devotional activities which are performed unknowingly are called Ajnata Sukriti. And when a person accumulates sufficient Ajnata Sukriti in this way, then he becomes more and more receptive for spiritual practices or spiritual knowledge or spiritual activities. And when a person becomes more receptive for these activities, then he will be, whenever he gets an opportunity to receive spirituality, he'll be more welcoming. He'll be more welcoming. This is one thing. And secondly, uh, as and when our heart slowly and gradually gets purified while practicing spirituality, our heart becomes more and more receptive for spirituality. Our heart becomes more and more receptive for spirituality, just as, for example, we use a sponge to wipe our dining tables or any table for that matter. For example, if the sponge is already dampened or is also already carrying a lot of water, and if you use that sponge to wipe a table, will it be able to wipe? No. Rather, first of all, we'll have to squeeze the sponge and get rid of all the water in it. Then we can use that to wipe the table. So similarly, as of now, we are so full with all the dirty things that we do not have any space left for Krishna. So that's why as soon as we try to enter something in our memory, or any spiritual opportunity comes up, our mind pops up, memory full, try later. Your memory is already full. Just like as and when we try to make a phone entry, if the memory is full, we get memory full, try later. So similarly, Similar is the case with us. We are so full with all of these material things that we are not left with any space for spirituality. That's why slowly and gradually we have to practice spirituality, although we may not be willing now. Although we are not willing, or it doesn't seem to be so pleasurable for us now, but still we practice spirituality so that we will squeeze out all of this dirty water from that sponge, from our minds, from our hearts, and so that it will become more receptive to spirituality. Then we'll start relishing spirituality. So this is how we can understand receptivity. Okay.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for that question. Innovate. Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Gratitude once again for the magical, elaborate, such wonderful words which will remain for lives to come. There was a little confusion in my mind that you told us that in Brahm Samhita, Govindam Adi Purusham. So Govindam, or the Govind, is the ultimate supreme God. Then in Padma Puran, you also told us that Shivji, he tells that the worship of Lord Vishnu is the best form of worship. Now, Bhagavatam says Hari. Hari is the only, we have the Hari Kevalam, that prayer also, that Hari is the only name. Now we chant the Shodash Mantra in ISKCON. And you also told at the time of death, Narayan. Now, so many words, they are all the forms, you see, that is all right. But see, I'm preparing for my final exam. I'm 74 years old. So which word? So that's my question.
Which is your magical word? Actually, first of all, these are all the holy names of the same Lord Krishna.
Yes.
But they are different names. Hari, Narayana, Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, all those refer to the same Lord Krishna. These are different names. So that's why we can, that's why we can chant any of these names. Any of these names.
Final exam. In the final exam.
In the final exam, all of these are correct answers.
That is that. Okay, let me now go a little further. I had 2-3 final exams in my life. I mean, I just went up. There was no name. There was nothing. It's void. I don't know. There was no name. Recently, I just last year, 2 years ago, like I was taking the exam, the physical pain was there, but I did not feel it. Such terrible pain. If anyone saw, they would die seeing a person suffering, but there was no suffering within me. I mean, the pain was there, that's physical, but the mind was so cool, and no name also. I chant, try to chant almost, let me say 40 to 50% of the times, counting my breaths. I don't want to waste my breaths. But there was no name. So I was a little confused that I'm taking the name and I'm trying to cleanse the water. You said cleaning it. But then even the name was not there at the final moment. So I'm a little confused. Am I lagging behind? Is my preparation not complete? Of course, I need much more. I'm no saint and nothing. So there's this little confusion. I thought you're the right person to ask this.
Then, as for whatever I could understand, I'll try to tell. See, sometimes when one may go through some sorts of experiences in the course of his life, but all the time, all of these doesn't actually relate to spirituality. They may at times relate to the situation of the actual spirituality in actual terms are final exam is said to be, we are said to pass the final exam only when we are actually remembering the Lord at the time of death. The Lord should come to our remembrance, either in the form of names, in the form of in his form, in his actual form, or in any other means. He should be coming to our remembrance. Only then that moment is said to be a success, or else it is a failure.
You have explained everything. You have explained everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Grateful to you. Million times, trillion times. I don't know counting.
Thank you so much,
Correct.
Mataji, for that wonderful question. Soumya Mataji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So this is regarding all the scriptures, all the books that we have today. I would take the name of Bhagavad Gita. So if I'm reading Bhagavad Gita today, how would I know that the book that I've chosen is exactly what Krishna said? And that is exactly what was written 5,000 years ago, and I am getting to read the same thing today. How do I know that? How do I trust that?
How do we get to know whether I'm eating a mango or not?
By the look of it and the taste.
Look and taste. Similarly, because it is said, Phalena Parichaya, we'll be able to understand that this is a mango tree when the fruits are mangoes. If the fruits are Goa, means it is a Goa tree. If the fruits are grapes, then it's a grapevine. So in that way, from the fruits, we'll be able to have an estimate of what the tree actually is, what is the source actually is. So similarly, we can also understand the authenticity of the words of Bhagavad Gita that you're reading now from its effect. From its effect, like if it is actually the same knowledge that Krishna has given, then it should have the same effect that Arjuna felt. Arjuna went through, it should have the same effect on us. Or a person who is reading it with the right attitude, or approaching it with the right attitude. So if we go by this understanding and see in the world, we can see what is the transformation that was brought about in Arjuna by hearing Bhagavad Gita. Initially, he was against the will of the Lord. Later on, he was fighting for the will of the Lord. So this was a change. He was against Lord, and now he was for Lord. So this is the kind of change that is to be seen in a person's life who is actually reading Bhagavad Gita in its true sense. In its true sense. See, when Srila Prabhupada has written this Bhagavad Gita and when it started flooding the world, and many sincere souls who have approached Gita, this Srila Prabhupada's Gita in a very sincere heart, they underwent the same change. They underwent the same change, and people who are against God and who were not at all going by the instructions of God, they are now in the service of God, working for God. I'll just give you an example. There was one person, one lady who was preparing for a PhD. And she was in her finals, and she was just about to submit her thesis. And she was about to submit her thesis in the next 2 months, and is just preparing her last chapters. And to our surprise, the subject in which she is doing her thesis was atheism. She was doing her thesis in atheism. And at one day she was driving her car home. While he was driving her car home, as you must have seen, many devotees, ISKCON devotees, they are on the traffic lights here and they are distributing Gita. And similarly, she also came across a devotee who was handing over her Gita, and she felt that let me take a copy of Gita so that I can find few points for my thesis. And extract, get some few points from my thesis. Then she got Gita. She got Gita. And until I reach home, let me sit back and read a few lines. If maybe I can get a few points which can help me improve my thesis better. And what is the thesis? Thesis is all about atheism and atheistic. And while she started reading, and she felt so absorbing and so involving. Then she went home. She did not sleep the whole night. She went through a couple of chapters of Gita. And the next day morning, she was so impressed and so influenced by the knowledge shared by Srila Prabhupada in the context of Gita, that the next day in the morning, she took her thesis and took a lighter and burnt the thesis to ashes. And literally, you can imagine, this is a work for 4 years. It took her 4 years to make up this thesis, and she literally burnt it. She literally burnt it. And this is the kind of transformation that can happen if we actually approach Bhagavad Gita in the right spirit. And this itself is a proof of how Gita actually acts upon us if we approach it with a sincere heart. And in this, I'm just sharing one such incident. There are innumerable such incidents wherein innumerable people have transformed their lives simply by coming in contact with the words of Gita. And what better proof do we need than such incidents? So this is how.
Prabhuji, like you said, like you gave the example. Similarly, I have also heard people saying that what if who is writing the Bhagavad Gita is a follower of Krishna, and just to praise Lord Krishna even further, there can be influences in the writing in favor of praising Krishna, whereas the praise can be more than what really was said, where you say that okay, I worship Lord Krishna, and I'm not for say worshipping Shivji or some other god, so I may write more praisefully about Lord Krishna. So then there can be different Bhagavad Gitas where there can be more praiseful things written for Lord Krishna, and also saying that Lord Krishna is saying these things.
Definitely. And that is how so many versions of Gita are there in the market today. There are more than 1,000 versions or explanations of Gita in the market, because people are dumping down their own explanations or their own opinions in the name of Gita. And that is what is being condemned here. Rather, Gita, that is the reason, although there are 1,000 different types of explanations, but none of them could actually bring about the change that was seen in Arjuna. Seen in Arjuna. When we actually see the kind of change that was brought about in Arjuna in others, then we can easily understand whether the Gita was presented in the right perspective, right sense or not. Right? So similarly, we can understand on a similar lines, because how can, I mean, in what way can we determine all of these things? So in that way we can understand. And secondly, when it comes to praising Krishna, when it comes to praising Krishna, in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Vedescha sarver ahameva vedya vedanta vid vedakrideva chaham. It is said that all the Vedic scriptures are actually simply meant to understand me. When the very person is supposed to be understood through all the scriptures and all the words of Gita, he is being praised, then what wrong is there? What wrong is there? Because the purpose is not being lost. It is said to be wrong when you defy the purpose. When you speak something in line with the purpose, then things are not understood to be lost. So similarly, if somebody glorifies Krishna, then because it falls in line with the very purpose of Gita, very purpose of the scriptures, then that is well appreciated. That is well appreciated and received. So this is how we can understand. Okay.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for that wonderful, detailed and exhaustive explanation. And thank you so much, Mataji, for that question. And that was the last question for the day. With that, we have come to an end of today's question and answer session. Let's take this opportunity to thank His Grace Vedanta Chaitanya Prabhuji for taking out time and delivering one more informative and detailed session today. Let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra and thank Prabhuji for the session. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Looking forward to see you tomorrow. I also thank all the participants, all the attendees, all the devotees for taking out time and attending today's class. We look forward to see you. As at the beginning of the session, we informed that today we will share the form for level 2 class. The form has been shared. Kindly make sure that you fill the form. As per your convenience, select the offline or the online mode, which is convenient to you. Also, the link for day 4 quiz has been shared. Kindly make sure that you attempt the quiz also. So this is all for the day. I hope you all enjoyed and learned the secrets of Bhagavad Gita. We look forward to welcome you, interact with you in tomorrow's session. So let's chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once in our traditional form and close today's session. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. On behalf of entire team of online Bhagavad Gita course, I thank you all for taking our time and attending today's session. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.